Well, hello there. Good morning. Frankie, jump. Jump. Come on. Frankie, jump. Jump. Frankie. Good boy. He's like, what are you doing, Mama? Here's Frankie. Here's my boy. Good boy. Good boy. All right, so you saw part 1 where I got interrupted by a phone call. Well, don't forget to check out Life and DIY by a lady named Lisa, I think. Real sweetheart. But yesterday I was so upset by that phone call, I started looking up to see if anyone had had the same experience. YouTube, what a wealth of information. So anyway, this lady was kind enough to share her experience in a very articulate way. I'm not going to make much sense because I speak in a discombobulated way if there's not an actual person on the other end. Some people are made for being YouTubers. I'm not. I'm just here to vent and share a little chit chat while I put on makeup, right? So I'm going to tell you what happened. Short and sweet, so I don't mess it all up. So, I've been trying to handle the lump on my chest my way. I feel that I have a pretty good grasp on what's going on, so I know how I want it treated. The lump is going down, so I'm not panicking. It's sort of stabilizing a certain size, and I think that's because I had to put the medications I chose to take on hold because my liver enzymes got incredibly high, which could have been the cancer shedding. So, my enzymes should be fairly low now. I should have a result coming in from this Friday's test soon. And I'll be able to, oh my goodness, I overdid it. I dug out one of my full coverage makeups, not remembering it was full coverage. Oopsie. Oh well. It just takes a little longer to blend. It'll be fine. So, shiny object. So agreeing to x-rays has been a risk I was willing to take just to put my mind at ease, to make sure it was matching up with my diagnosis. Since in mental health, I can diagnose as a psychotherapist. And in medicine, I used to be married to medicine, and I've always had a good brain for analyzing and research. So it was more for self-satisfaction than treatment, because I always knew the treatment I was going to try anyway. See where I'm going? Anyway, I was able to get I forgot what it's called, but it's chest x-rays from 3 different, it was like getting 3 separate sets of x-rays because of how they were taken. I don't know, it's a fancy word. And then I got the sonogram and the mammogram. The chest x-rays didn't find anything. The sonogram and the mammogram showed, by the time I got those, I'd already been taking the medication I was taking for a couple months, 6 plus 2 weeks maybe. And so they just found the one little lump and felt the swelling, the inflammation of the other lump, but could not find a mass. So I'm very satisfied. So I about canceled the MRI. And from a couple different people I was talked into, I was swayed into keeping the appointment. And as I researched MRIs, because I hadn't had one for a while, and I think the MRI I had before was on my leg, one of my legs, and the other thing I had was a CAT scan of my brain after I had had some of the worst migraines I had ever had. They were shocking. They weren't normal migraines, and I was used to having migraines when I was younger. So anyway, I thought, well, I wonder what this is going to be like. And so I found out there was a difference in MRIs where they would give you ink or not ink. And I didn't know there was a choice. I thought, well, why do an MRI if you don't use ink? I didn't understand it. But then as I researched it, I found out that you can get it without ink, and without ink is safer for something that's not very safe anyway. I mean, it's a lot of people have lots of x-rays with no problem. I've had quite a history with maintenance of stabilizing cancer, but it was a money-making deal from what I can understand. Anyway, I called my doctor and said I want it without the ink. And they've said, oh, okay. Well, if they have a problem with it, just let us know. And they can call us and we'll give you a prescription. We'll just let them know and we'll fax you over a prescription. So I thought, well, that's weird. Why don't you just do that now? But I didn't want to be pushy. And it was a work day. And so I was needing to get off the phone as well. So I just figured she needed to get off the phone as well. No biggie. Well, they called to confirm my appointment when I was on the phone with you yesterday. I just put a blue strike up the side of my face. So when I disconnected from you and answered their call, we got in a lengthy discussion about the ink. And it was, if you check out Life and DIY and watch her video on her experience with the MRI, it's about exactly how my phone call went. Long story short, they refused, even though I had an appointment to do an MRI with the ink and without the ink. They wanted to be able to compare both of them. I couldn't choose to not have the one without ink. And I said, well, if you're going to do both anyway, just save your time and energy and just do the one I want and not the one I don't want. We don't do that here. And you will just have to go somewhere else if you want it without the ink, which is perfectly safe, blah, blah, blah. And as soon as she said that in such a flippant way, I tuned out because I'm sure she said something about the type of ink they use, which is supposed to be safer than the other one. And if you do your, I just tuned it out. I was so angry to be talked to like I was stupid. So there's that. Very disappointing. Very disappointing. So this mama said, well, I will give this some thought and I will call if I need to cancel. I called my primary care provider and talked to the nurse who I like. And she's been understanding about how I want to go about this since I discussed it with her when I first found the lump, which was quite large at the time, about as big as the end of my thumb. And now it's about that big on my fingernail. So whatever I'm doing okay. And I'm not scared and panicked like I was. It's very scary. And I'll tell you what, there's also a doctor on there. Oh, I can't remember her name, but I feel like we could look like sisters. Her hair's a darker gray. Mine's more of a blonde gray, white. And hers is darker. And it's curly. Kind of crazy curly. And she talks about her experience with breast cancer. And how, it's a weird kind of scared. You can know all kinds of things and feel like your spirituality's in the right place for years, and then you're faced with it and it's different. Just like people think, this always cracked me up, because I've been divorced a couple times. Not proud of it. I would have stayed married the third time for sure, had I known more about being a grown-up. But I was so career-orientated. I made very bad decisions. Let's see. Yeah. Very bad decisions based on my past trauma and my self-centeredness. So anyway, where was I going with this? This lady was talking about how people just don't understand what you're going through until you go through it. And she's a doctor in cancer, oncologist. So I'm so glad she was able to recover and share her story, because it's true. Oh, I was paralleling this with facing death, facing something like losing a child, or a loved one, facing a divorce. People don't understand. They'll say, you've been married how many times and you're in mental health? It's like, if you haven't been there and had broken heart after broken heart. And I remember someone saying, well, yeah, I've had lots of boyfriends, lots of live-ins, but I didn't marry them. It's like, okay, then I know now. I see when I was younger, I would be insulted, my feelings would be hurt, blah, blah, blah. Well, now I understand they have no way of knowing how to process someone who's had that much heartbreak. And so it's so easy to just judge it and move on. And it's very much like trying to support someone you care about with cancer or some other life-threatening disease, is that it's just, I've sat with people who have had an abortion early in life, and then they come to me like a decade or more later, and to process the now broken heart that they have for doing that, especially if they hadn't had the opportunity to have a baby when they thought they wanted one. It's devastating. And if they don't get the right therapist, because very often the therapist will say, well, you did the right thing at the time, blah, blah, blah. Well, it's kind of like telling a smoker who finally gets lung cancer, or eventually does because of all that smoking. Now, a lot of people who smoke don't get cancer. That's a true story. But some people say, oh, well, you finally got cancer. What are you complaining about? You've chosen to be a smoker, blah, blah, blah. But they don't understand the journey that person had, the relationship they had with the cigarettes, or the dope, or the abusive person, or the addiction to money, or gambling, or their career. I'm wearing more makeup than usual. Just because I'm yapping. I gotta do something with my hair. Probably nothing because it's raining out. I'll just put on a headband. Just because. Sorry, I am so awkward this morning with this camera. I know I'm off camera from what I'm seeing most of the time. Sorry. So, yep, that's it. So I called the doctor's office and told them what they told me, and I wasn't able to talk to my nurse. She was busy. So I just left a message and saying, I'm going to need to cancel that appointment. Do you cancel it or should I cancel it? Because they made it. And then they called, or they referred it, and then they called me and we made it. So I didn't know how that worked. So right after I got off the phone, I got one of those automated messages that said to confirm or cancel and reschedule the appointment. So I canceled it. And when it went into the next phase of rescheduling, I just hung up. And then it called me back to reschedule, another automation, and I just hung up. You know what? If I'm willing to pay cash for my treatment, why shouldn't I get the treatment I want? Tell me that. Tell me that. It's not about insurance. I know a lot of people don't get treatment because they can't afford cash. I know a lot of people don't get the treatment that they need because they don't have insurance. I know a lot of people will choose, well, I'm not paying for it, or I'll pay for it. Just give me the treatment I want. And then there's hospitals that will refuse to give you the treatment you want, which makes sense. Why would I want to treat? I think I got mascara just right up on my eyelid. Yep, I felt it. What's that about? I think it's crooked. If I have someone come to me, if I have a client come to me and say, look, I want to work on this, communication skills, I don't want to work on my childhood trauma, I'm going to meet them where they're at. I'm not going to say, well, I can't treat you if you don't do the full meal deal. Seriously? Come on, people. Okay, so I'm going to go take care of myself. I'm going to have another cup of decaf, or another cup of coffee, not decaf, because it's got to give me that energy to get out of the house. I'm going to go to a meeting and meet a sponsee and see how things are going. Maybe two, depending on who shows up. Very excited. Working with others is one of the ways to heal. One of the ways to get your head out of your own patootie and live life. Sometimes we don't have the energy to do that. But as soon as you have the energy to do it, try to do it. Just get out there and Be nice to some old person who's walking through your neighborhood. Hey, good morning, neighbor. Anything. Anything to get you out of yourself for that moment. And going for a gentle walk, which I have had to force myself to do when my energy's really low, when I'm feeling much better lately. It made a world of difference for the whole rest of the day. A 5 or 10 minute walk every day can help heal mental health and get your respiratory system just gently going, get your internal mechanisms going. All right, enough preaching. Love you. Mean it. Bye for now.